2,060 square kilometers of Earth belong to nobody because two countries both refused to take it. Not a remote island, not a scrap of Antarctic ice, an ordinary wedge of desert on the border between Egypt and Sudan. Egypt says it belongs to Sudan. Sudan says it belongs to Egypt. And the reason isn't a war or a treaty gone wrong. It's a paperwork trick from over a century ago that neither country can walk back without giving up something they actually want. In 1899, Britain, which controlled Egypt and was establishing joint rule over Sudan, drew a simple border, the 22nd parallel north, a straight line of latitude. Everything north of it was Egypt. Everything south was Sudan. Clean, simple, ruler straight, the same colonial habit that drew half of Africa's borders. But a straight line ignores how people actually live. In 1902, Britain drew a second line, not a new political border, just an administrative boundary meant to match the line to real tribal territory on the ground. And here's where it gets strange. The 1902 line handed administrative control of two pieces of land to the opposite side of the 22nd parallel from where the 1899 line had put them. A strip of land called Bir Tawil, dry, landlocked, no coast, grazed by the Ababda people who had closer ties to Egypt, sits south of the 22nd parallel, meaning the 1899 line puts it in Sudan. But the 1902 administrative line reassigned it to Egypt to match who was actually using it. Meanwhile, a much bigger and far more valuable piece of coastline on the Red Sea, the Hala'ib Triangle, over 20,000 square kilometers with fishing grounds and mineral potential, sits north of the 22nd parallel, meaning the 1899 line puts it in Egypt. But the 1902 line reassigned Hala'ib to Sudanese administration because the tribes there had closer ties to Khartoum. Two lines, two swaps. Nobody thought either mattered much because it was all still the same British-run territory anyway. Then, in 1956, Sudan became independent, and suddenly which line counted was not a filing cabinet detail, it was sovereignty. Egypt picked the 1899 line as the real border. Why? Because under that straight line, Hala'ib, the valuable coastal prize, is north of the 22nd parallel, which makes it Egyptian. Sudan picked the 1902 line instead. Why? Because under that administrative line, Hala'ib was assigned to Sudan. Both countries still claim Hala'ib to this day. Egypt has administered it since the 1990s. Sudan disputes that and periodically presses its own claim. But watch what happens to Bir Tawil in each of those same arguments. Egypt's own preferred line, the 1899 straight line, puts Bir Tawil in Sudan, not Egypt. So the instant Egypt claims Hala'ib using the 1899 line, it has, by its own logic, given up Bir Tawil. And Sudan's own preferred line, the 1902 administrative line, puts Bir Tawil in Egypt, not Sudan. So the instant Sudan claims Hala'ib using the 1902 line, it has, by its own logic, given up Bir Tawil right back. Neither country ever renounced Bir Tawil directly. They didn't have to. Each one's own winning argument for the land it actually wants automatically hands Bir Tawil to the other country, and neither one is willing to switch arguments just to pick up a landlocked desert strip with no water, no port, and no resources worth the trouble. The result is a genuine Terra nullius, land claimed by no sovereign state at all, one of a tiny handful left on the planet. A truly unclaimed piece of land is an irresistible novelty, and Bir Tawil has attracted exactly the kind of claims you'd expect. In 2014, a man from Virginia planted a homemade flag in the desert and declared himself head of state of the Kingdom of North Sudan, reportedly to fulfill a promise to his young daughter that he'd make her a real princess. Several other online micronation projects have made similar claims over the years. Egypt and Sudan have not responded to any of them because neither claim changes the underlying reason the land sits empty. It's genuinely easier for both governments to leave it alone than to reopen the argument. Bir Tawil isn't unclaimed because it's worthless. It's unclaimed because the only way either Egypt or Sudan could claim it would mean using the borderline that costs them the coastline they actually want. So the desert in between sits exactly where a century-old paperwork mismatch left it, the only patch of land on Earth that two countries have each accidentally talked themselves out of owning. If you like the strange places borders end up, subscribe. There's a new one every week.